from the station that's on your side. This is Channel 7 News at 6.
All right, we have more coverage of this tornado warning that's just to the north of the Little Rock area. And this is going to be going until 6:45 unless it shows signs of weakening. The National Weather Service is watching it. We're watching it. And so you've got this heavy rain from Valonia back to just east of Conway, and then you've got it extending on back. There's going to be some very heavy rainfall from Mayflower, maybe just the north side of Mayflower, up to Valonia.
My mom called and said, Heather, she's throwing up. And I just knew. It was pouring down rain and just torrential downpour. And I got in my car. I drove 90 miles an hour in the rain. Went into my parents' house. I didn't say a word. I picked her up and she was almost lifeless. Put her in the car, drove back to Little Rock, took her immediately to an urgent care because it was the first place that I reached. They did a urine test and they said it's type 1. Her sugar levels we can't even measure. I feel like as a parent, and even those who actually have type 1, you have a perspective on life that the other part of the world would only gain after 2 lifetimes. It's extremely difficult to see your child with a disease that you can't fix. And as a parent, you want to fix it. Finley Kate was our surprise baby. We had 2 boys. We thought we were done, but the dear Lord knew that we needed Finley Kate. She is, I tell her she's my most favorite girl in the world, of course, but she is spunky. She's smarter than all of us. She's stronger than all of us. She's the boss of the house. She has tons of friends. You know, she's super sassy. She never wants to do the same as anybody else. She wants to have her own hair bows. She doesn't want anybody else to have the same hair bows. She just wants to be her own individual. She is just, I'm speechless. There are no words to describe her. So with type 1 diabetes, we have to have an accurate carb count with each meal. Typically, as without type 1, you can grab a handful of chips, put it on the plate, and don't think twice about it. So with type 1, I actually have to count out one by one how many veggie sticks that I am putting on her plate. So I will count them, and by doing so, it will allow me to get the most accurate carb count possible. And with that carb count, it will allow me to give her the most accurate bolus, which is the amount of insulin per meal. Type 1 is a disease that you can never control. It is manageable, but you cannot control it. The optimal number for any being is to have a blood sugar of 100. And when Finley Kate has a blood sugar of 100, we call that a unicorn because it's magical. That's the magical number. We never want it to be below 70, and we never want it to go higher than 130. It is very difficult to stay consistently within that range. It takes consistent on top of her, monitoring her levels, which way her blood sugars are rising or falling, how fast they're falling, how fast they're rising. So I just received an alarm that Finley Kate's blood sugar is dropping below 70, and it's showing me that it's going to continue to drop. I was preparing lunch for her, but before she can have lunch, I'm going to have to give her juice to bring her blood sugars up above 70 before she can have food to eat. Each time she eats, she has to have insulin to accommodate the food that she's eaten. Type 1 diabetes is when it's an autoimmune disease and the pancreas quits producing insulin. Insulin is what turns your food into energy. There you go. Oh, still a little low. Don't come up. Oh, no. It's okay. It's coming up. I know. Hey, it's okay. Okay? Come on. I know. Come on. Come up.
Why is this so hard?
Because it's your baby and you can't fix it. It's hard to talk to your child about it because Finley Kate, for the longest, would ask daily, when is there going to be a cure? Is the cure today? Will we find the cure today? Tomorrow, will I be better? I remember her making her birthday wish at 5 years old, and she wished for a cure for type 1. And I tell her that's my same birthday wish every year too. But you know, she's so resilient, and we say all the time that she's the strongest in the family, and that God has a plan for this, and His light will shine through this. It also trickles down into, you know, your marriage. It trickles down into the kids, the other kids in the family. It affects everything. It affects you financially. It's very expensive to have type 1. It's very expensive to have a child with type 1. Yay! Let me get it now. 170. Eat away, girl. Initially, after she was diagnosed, we gave her shots, and it was anywhere from 6 to 7 shots a day, and then 1 at night, so typically 8 shots a day. And doing that with a 4-year-old, just chasing her around the house because she was so scared, and it was traumatic for her, it was traumatic for us. So we quickly found the solution of putting her on an insulin pump, and we chose to go with Omnipod. There are various types of pumps available. A majority of them have tubes that connect to the pump itself, and then there's a tube that connects to the catheter. The Omnipod was the only tubeless insulin pump that there is. And being as active as she was, it was kind of like our best solution. And we have remained on the Omnipod since then. So the Omnipod comes with a remote, which is great. It eliminates the shots. It's something that we change every 3 days. It has a catheter that sticks into her body, wherever the placement of that time is. It rotates between her 2 arms, both sides of her stomach, and then both sides of her lower back. Ready? Good job. You get a Patterson clap, girl. Good job. All right. Yes, we are rolling. All right. Once that catheter is inserted in her, we can administer insulin through the remote. So that is something that we never ever want to lose. We have to have that PDM. We put it in a little pink wallet. It's kind of like her little pink clutch, we call it, because she loves all things purses and dresses, so we call it a clutch. And within it, it has her her needles, her lancet. So if we do need to check her blood sugar, we have that there. And it has her blood glucose meter. And we have to take that with us everywhere we go.
Well, because they had lined them up in a circle, but they didn't tell her that. So she was trying to look for them, and they knew exactly. Okay, look up at your books back here. If we did not finish your letters, go back and do that.
I think for any student, social interactions are just as important as academic interactions. And for a student to become ready for society as an adult, you've got to be around other students. You've got to know how to feed off of other students. And so I think it's so important for kids with type 1 to be able to go to school, because if they don't have that social interaction, they're missing a huge chunk of what helps form them into these successful adults later in life.
My biggest fear was letting her go back to school, knowing that someone had to be there over her at all times to keep her alive, and her being outside of my control.
How was lunch? Good.
Our nurses,
Should we see if you ate everything?
just when she got on the Omnipod, they went and did all the education online with the Omnipod. They do all the reading. They've read the books. They are in constant communication with Lane and I on our phones. These are her blood sugars. This is how much insulin we're giving her.
Was lunch good? No. What was your favorite part of lunch? The sandwich? Okay.
In years past, we've had Finley Kate come in multiple times a day, before and after any meal, any activity, and so she was in here quite a bit, and I know that was upsetting to her. She wants to be a part of the class and with her friends, and the teachers have been wonderful to bring a friend, or let her bring a friend with her. But this year, now we have her Dexcom that we can read on our cell phones. And so it has really changed the way we take care of her. We can sit in this office and monitor her throughout the day. Before lunch, after lunch, activities. We still give insulin at meal times. And if she's low or if she's not feeling quite right, she can come to us, but we can go to her too instead of pulling her out of the classroom. So that's technology that has really afforded her some freedom to be with her friends, be in class so she's not missing schoolwork, and not feel separated.
Go ahead and turn to what chapter are we on? 8. On chapter 8.
Best advice that I could give a parent who has a child who was recently diagnosed is that it doesn't necessarily get easier, but you will get in a rhythm of learning how to manage it. You will become, with each day that goes by, you will become more familiar with what it takes to manage it with your child, because it is different with every single child. But the best advice I could give is to find those moms, whether it is through social media, whether it is through blogs, whether you have a local JDRF chapter within your city. Find those parents, those moms that know exactly what you're going through. They are your village. Even though with every individual it's different, not everything works for the same person, just knowing that you have that one thing in common is just so good for your heart, and it is what's going to get you through this journey and this cross that your child and your family has been asked to bear. JDRF is the largest organization in the world leading the fight against type 1 diabetes. They are the organization that spends the most on finding a cure, on research, and also prevention. They have multiple clinics and clinical trials that they run with families, and they can actually detect the probability of a child getting type 1, which is tremendous. No one knows where the cure will come from, but through JDRF, we do continue to identify several paths. that have the most promise. Investing in the early stages of type 1 has allowed researchers to pursue ideas and approaches that will lead to breakthrough treatments, which is super imperative. So that organization in itself is clearly very important to all type 1s and all families of those who have type 1 children.